Well, my friends, it is that time of the year again. The leaves have turned to shades of warm cider and cinnamon. Pumpkin spice everything is back in action. Homes across the country are adorned with jack-o'-lanterns, skeletons, and spooky spiderwebs. As the harvest moon enters the sky, trick-or-treaters in a variety of spooky guises go doorstep to doorstep in search of candy and a fun prank. Even adults join in on the fun with costume parties and fun contests. Supermarket shelves are stocked with an endless variety of candy, and department stores offer a vast array of decor and costumes to make the holiday a truly unforgettable and special event. On this special night, October 31st, the impossible becomes possible. People let go of their inhibitions and get lost in the campy thrills and fun of Halloween night. But how exactly have these customs come into practice, and why is it that Americans put so much emphasis on Halloween? As one of the top 5 most expensive holidays in the US, Halloween has evolved from what was once a sacred Celtic tradition into a money-making monopoly for a variety of different industries. This heavy investment into the Americanized version of the holiday is a direct result of the psychological desires that many of us possess to partake in the outlandish customs that go along with Halloween, such as trick-or-treating and seeking fear. So today we're going to dive into the history of Halloween and specifically why it's gained so much traction in Western culture. So fasten your seatbelts and join me as we go down the spooky rabbit hole of the origins of Halloween. But before we get into that rabbit hole, I'd like to give a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Keen. Today's video is sponsored by Keen. And if you're not familiar, Keen is the world's largest network of talented psychics who provide psychic readings to help you answer your most pressing questions about love, relationships, career, and more. So I use Keen whenever I have a question about my career or my love life, or I just need a little bit of guidance. And I actually just met with an advisor recently, and she gave me some really great advice regarding my love life, and she really made me feel reassured about the direction that I'm heading in, and she didn't even know anything about what I'm going through currently, but she was spot on with everything that I've been feeling and everything that I've been dealing with. And I left that call feeling so reassured and like I really knew which direction I wanted to move forward with things. So if you want to get a reading on Keen like I did, it's super easy to start. All you have to do is create an account and you'll be able to choose from hundreds of readers who are online right now. And the thing I love about Keen the most is that you can really pick and choose which readers are going to resonate with you the most based on what exactly it is you're looking for and what skills you're looking for as well. And each of these readers have unique specialties designed to help you in your particular situation. So you can choose whichever reader suits you best, and then you'll be able to connect with them either via a phone call or a text chat. And as a new customer on Keen, I'm excited to offer to you guys that you can try your first 10 minutes for just $1.99. That's up to $99 in savings, which is an amazing deal. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, you can head over to TryKeen, that's KEEN.com/Haley Noel to get some big savings on your first reading. The ancient origins of Halloween can be traced back to the Gaelic festival of Samhain. In Celtic culture, the year was divided into a lighter half and a darker half. Samhain marked the beginning of the darker half, and the Celts celebrated this festival on October 31st. This ceremony served to praise the harvest season and also welcome in the new year. For Celts, the dark season was a matter of life or death. As the days became shorter and colder and crop yields were uncertain, many died a death of either sickness or starvation. Essentially, the ceremony punctuated the beginning of a challenging season ahead. Apart from its seasonal roots, Samhain also carried a great deal of spiritual significance for the Celts. Samhain marked the point of the year in which the Celts believed that the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. Participants would gather around a bonfire adorned in guises like pig heads and cloaks in order to scare off unwanted spirits. And food and offerings were put forward in an effort to contact and make a connection with ancestors that had passed on to the other realm. It's also believed that Samhain marked the one night of the year in which druids, also known as Celtic priests, could make accurate predictions which were guided by the dead. Samhain combined superstitious elements with a celebration of the harvest season in order to create what many of us now know and recognize as Halloween. However, all of this changed once the Roman Empire gained control of the Celtic territory. It's important to note that the Catholic Church included several components of Samhain into its festivals, creating the holiday that Americans now fully recognize as Halloween. Historically, the Church aims to incorporate secular holidays and traditions from other cultures into its own, and this was in an effort to convert people to Catholicism. Let's not even mention the rabbit hole of appropriation that's involved with the Catholic Church. This is a perfect example of just that. This is especially evident in the Church's celebration of Samhain and its adaptation into what was known as All Hallows Day. All Hallows Day, also known as All Saints' Day, is celebrated on November 1st. It's the day that the church honors and recognizes all God's saints, even those that hadn't been adorned by the church. Much of Halloween's association of the dead stems from the Catholic Church's integration of Samhain into what was known as All Saints' Day. This celebration had originally occurred on May 13th. However, in 844, Pope Gregory IV had transferred the holiday to November 1st, timing it around the harvests to be able to provide food for the pilgrims. But some believe that this was to substitute a feast for the pagan celebrations that also occurred at the same time of year. The night before this celebration was referred to as All Hallows' Eve, which marks the beginning of an 8-day-long period in which Catholics would celebrate the Feast of All Saints' Day. And this was eventually shortened into the modern celebration of Halloween. So essentially, it was the Catholic Church that turned the celebration of Samhain into Halloween. Although trick-or-treating is the quintessential American Halloween activity, its origins can actually be traced back to medieval Britain. During the medieval era, souling and guising were commonplace to celebrate on All Hallows' Eve. On All Souls' Day, November 2nd, the needy would engage in something called souling. They would beg for pastries known as soul cakes, and in return, they would pray for people's passed-on relatives. In the medieval Halloween tradition of guising, young people would dress up in costumes and accept food, money, wine, or other offerings in exchange for writing poetry, telling jokes, or singing or dancing. And in 19th century America, it was actually the Irish and Scottish immigrants that revived these old practices, thus creating the modern interpretation of Halloween. And while trick-or-treating became a staple of Halloween celebrations throughout the US, it wasn't until industries started to monopolize this practice that it really began to take off. What we now know as trick-or-treating first appeared in the late 1930s to early 1940s in various parts of the country. During these early years of the celebration of Halloween, it was commonplace for homes to give out popcorn balls and fruit, and even toys to trick-or-treaters. This eventually changed as the holiday's notoriety expanded. And it was during the 1950s that candy made decisive inroads in dominating Halloween. Candy was easy to buy and also easy to distribute, so it made it a perfect choice for Halloween hosts. And as the number of trick-or-treaters began to increase, candy was also an economic option to be handing out to trick-or-treaters. Small, inexpensive candies became popular. And this is when major candy manufacturers started making smaller bags of candy and also candy corn. As Halloween has continued to evolve, it's become one of the most expensive holidays celebrated in the US. An entire culture of costumes, candies, movies, theme park attractions has all been created in honor of this holiday. Americans spent around $10.14 billion on the ghoulish holiday in 2021, which is a record high. And it's anticipated that we will spend $10.6 billion on Halloween this year. So it's clear now that Americans believe that Halloween is a holiday worth investing in. But what contributes to this intense desire to spend money on Halloween? One idea that explains the psychological allure of Halloween is something psychologists refer to as de-individuation, or the loss of one's sense of individuality in a group setting. And, let's face it, Halloween is the perfect recipe for de-individuation. Those who participate in the festivities put on a costume or disguise and travel in large groups from house to house in search of candy. And in this setting, people are more likely to engage in activities and behaviors that are outside of their character. And that's because they lose that sense of personal identity. In 1976, psychologist Edward Diener conducted a study to assess how de-individuation affected people who were trick-or-treating. He and his colleagues organized and compared 3 different variables of de-individuation: anonymity versus non-anonymity, alone versus groups, and groups with or without a single person responsible for the group's actions. In each instance, 1,300 trick-or-treaters were greeted with a bowl of individually wrapped small-sized candies and also a bowl of pennies and nickels. Under the anonymous condition, a woman told the trick-or-treaters to take just one piece of candy. However, under the identified condition, she asked each person what their name was and where they were from before they took that one piece of candy. And although the children were given an equal chance at stealing both the candy and the money, higher rates of stealing also occurred in that group setting. And essentially, this shows that the children were most tempted to steal when they knew that they could remain anonymous, and they were also following suit of their group setting. I know for myself as a kid, when it came to trick-or-treating, if I didn't know who the person was, I would be taking more than one piece of candy, and everybody else was doing it too, so I really didn't feel like it was a problem. But if I had an adult ask me what my name was or where I lived, you can be sure I would have only taken one piece of candy. Another idea for the fascination of Halloween is the innate human desire to get scared. And in particular, the psychological reaction that humans have getting spooked in a safe and controlled environment. Stephen King has even stated that thrills in that safe environment rekindle a certain childlike sense of innocence. He goes on to say that Horror movies urge us to put away our more civilized and adult penchant for analysis and to become children again, seeing things in pure blacks and whites. It may be that horror movies provide psychic relief on this level because this invitation to lapse into simplicity, irrationality, and even outright madness is extended so rarely. We are told we may allow our emotions a free rein, or no rein at all. The mythic horror movie, like The Sick Joke, has a dirty job to do. It deliberately appeals to all that is the worst in us. It is morbidity unchanged, and our most basic instincts let free, our nastiest fantasies realized. And it all happens, fittingly enough, in the dark. In other words, horror movies in particular serve as a platform in which some of the darkest fantasies of the human mind can actually play out. They are more or less a guilty pleasure only to be acted out on the silver screen and not in real life. And it's important to note that there's also psychological benefits to becoming scared in a safe environment. When a group of people walk into a haunted house, for example, they know that all of the ghouls and spooks are fake and pose no real threat to their well-being. However, the human threat system has evolved as a means of protection, which means that those entering a haunted attraction or haunted house can suspend their disbelief momentarily and allow themselves to feel that fear. A spook, such as a skeleton popping out behind a doorway, acts as a stimulus which then triggers a signal in the brain. That signal then is sent to the hypothalamus and triggers our automatic nervous system. And this is the system that's responsible for our fight or flight instinct and sends us into Superman mode. So that system elevates our blood pressure and our heart rate and pumps adrenaline throughout our bodies. And that is the rush that you feel when you're scared. And even though the mind subconsciously knows that there's no real danger, the human body still responds in a defensive fashion, creating that thrilling rush that many of us feel on Halloween or any time that we're scared. Once it made its way to the New World, Halloween took on a new meaning. And no longer was it a sacred evening rooted in tradition. American marketers saw Halloween as an opportunity to persuade consumers to purchase festive goods in honor of the celebration, an idea that had already generated a great amount of revenue during holidays like Christmas. And the willingness of consumers to purchase said goods and participate monetarily in the holiday suggests the deep-rooted psychological fascination and allure that comes with the scares and thrills and spooks of Halloween. And there's a certain allure to the idea of dressing up and becoming anonymous in a large group, and people are captivated by the idea of getting scared. Will the industries associated with Halloween ever dwindle down or become obsolete? Only time will tell. But it's safe to say that as long as families are buying costumes, children are trick-or-treating, people are going into horror movies and to haunted attractions, Halloween as America knows it is not going anywhere anytime soon. So thank you for coming down the rabbit hole of unraveling the history of Halloween with me. I surely hope that you learned something and that you enjoyed this topic. I'm looking to make more videos like this, so if you guys have any topics that you'd like me to fully cover and go down the rabbit hole with, drop it down in the comments, let me know. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do so. It's free and you can keep up with these videos and it really helps support me. Like this video if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends. And that is it, everybody. Happy Halloween, stay safe, have fun, get scared, eat candy, and enjoy this festive season.